Have you ever just paused before asking a question in English? When two phrases sound almost identical, but you have a sneaking suspicion they mean totally different things? Yeah, it's a super common trip up. Well, in this explainer, we're going to demystify 6 of the most confusing pairs out there so you can start asking and answering with total confidence. Okay, let's jump right in with an absolute classic. How are you versus how do you do? I mean, they sound so similar, don't they? A ton of people mix these up or use them interchangeably, but here's the thing, they actually have completely different jobs in a conversation. Yup, you heard that right. One is a real question, it's actually asking how you're doing. The other one, it's not really a question at all. It's more like a formal verbal handshake. So which is which? Let's solve this first little mystery. All right, first up, we're diving into questions about greetings and making choices. Nailing these will make your everyday conversations feel so much smoother, I promise. Okay, so check out the difference here. On one side, you've got, how are you? This is your go-to for people you already know, right? Friends, coworkers. And you expect a real answer back, like, I'm great, or not bad, thanks. But then you have, how do you do? This one is way more formal. Think of it like a handshake, but with words. And here's the key. You only use it the very first time you meet someone. And the weirdest part, the correct response is just to say it right back to them. How do you do? So the simple rule here is, how do you do is for that first formal handshake. How are you is for basically every single conversation you have after that. Simple enough, right? Okay, let's tackle our next pair, what versus which. The whole secret here boils down to one simple idea, choices. If you ask, what color do you like? The options are, well, unlimited. You're asking about every color in the entire universe. But if you ask, which color do you prefer, red or blue, you've suddenly narrowed the choices down to a very specific, limited set. So here's a great way to think about it. What throws the doors wide open to a universe of possibilities? Which points to a specific list of things right in front of you. Think, what kind of music do you listen to? Versus, which of these albums do you want to play? Rock or jazz? See the difference? Okay, moving on. Next, we're going to tackle questions about quantity and, drumroll, those tricky what-if situations. This is where, yeah, a little bit of grammar knowledge really, really helps. Now, this is a huge one. How much versus how many? Honestly, it all boils down to one thing. Are you talking about something you can count or something you can't? For example, you ask, how much time do you have? Because time itself is this big abstract idea you can't really count. But you can count the units of time, so you'd ask, how many hours do you have? And this table here lays it out perfectly. Look, you can't really count luggage as a concept, but you can definitely count the individual suitcases. You can't count information, but you can count the reports that contain the information. Are you seeing the pattern? The uncountable noun is usually the general category, and the countable one is the specific item within it. So the really easy way to remember this is to just ask yourself, can I put a number in front of it? Can I say 1 report, 2 reports, 3 reports? Yes? Then use how many. If you can't, you wouldn't say 1 information, then you use how much. Okay, let's level up a little bit with this next one. Will versus would. Now, will is all about the real, likely future. So if you ask a top political candidate, what will you do when you become president, you're talking about a future that seems very possible. But if you ask your friend, what would you do if you were president, you're creating a totally imaginary, hypothetical situation. So really, it all just comes down to reality versus imagination. Will is for what's probably going to happen. Would is for what you can only dream about. It's basically the difference between a solid plan and a fun daydream. All right, for our final section, we're going to look at 2 pairs of questions that are all about ownership and measurement, distance and time. And these 2 are huge sources of confusion, especially when you're writing. Okay, these 2 sound exactly the same when you say them out loud, which is why they trip so many people up. But the secret is all in the spelling. Whose, the one with the apostrophe, is just a shortcut, a contraction for who is or who has. Like, who's coming with us? But whose, no apostrophe, is all about ownership. It asks, hey, who does this belong to? So, the rule of thumb is all about that tiny little apostrophe. Before you write it, just ask yourself, can I replace this word with who is or who has? If the sentence still makes sense, you need the apostrophe. If you're asking about who owns something, leave it out.
And here we are, our final pair, how far versus how long. How far is almost always about distance. How far is it to the beach? Now, it gets a little tricky because we often answer with time, like, oh, it's about 20 minutes away. But the question itself is about distance. How long, on the other hand, is used for two main things: duration of time, how long is the flight, or physical length, how long is that piece of wood. So, the simple way to keep them straight is this: how far is for distance. How long is for a duration of time or physical length. That's it.
Whew, we have covered a lot of ground. So now let's do a super quick review of everything, just to make sure these ideas really stick. That way, you can start using them with confidence, like today. All right, time for a quick pop quiz. Imagine you're choosing from a small, specific set of options. Which question word are you going to use? You got it. It's which, because which is always for those limited choices. Awesome. And there you have it. All 6 of our simple rules, all in one place. Think of this as your cheat sheet. From greetings to grammar, these are your keys to clearing up all that confusion. Go ahead, take a second to let it all sink in. So I guess the only question left is a real one, about your real future. And notice I said will. With all these little mysteries solved, what will you do with your new confidence in English? Go on, get out there and start some amazing conversations. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.